Okay, hopefully by now you've finished the practice on page 112. You can probably do the practice on page 113 as well, so I'll have you go ahead and do that, but just to give you a tip on what to look out for, the main thing you need to do to begin, like it says here, naming a compound involves two steps. The first step involves categorizing the substance as ionic or covalent, because we have a different set of rules if it's ionic versus if it's covalent. So if it's ionic, then remember we name the metal and then the nonmetal ending with "ide." But if it's covalent, so covalent, we use the prefixes mono, di, tri, etc. How do you know when it's ionic and when it's covalent? Remember, ionic, typically we have a metal, then with a nonmetal, a cation, left-hand side periodic table, anion, right-hand side periodic table. Or we could have a polyatomic ion, but those will usually take the place of the nonmetal. For covalent, when we use the mono, di, tri, it's nonmetal with nonmetal. So as you go down this list, all we're trying to do here is, to begin, is to classify each as ionic or covalent. So like with CS2, I see that carbon is here and sulfur is here. They're both on the right-hand side, so that's going to be covalent. And then CaOH2, I can see calcium's on the left-hand side, and the OH is a polyatomic ion, so that's going to be ionic. So do the classification first, and then since this one's covalent, I know to use the mono, di, tri, whatever, so this is carbon disulfide. And this one's ionic, so I can just say calcium, and then OH minus, if I go back to my list of polyatomic ions, well, wherever that is, I know that's hydroxide. But I don't need dihydroxide because it's ionic, so I don't use the mono, di, tri. You only use these prefixes when it's covalent. You don't use the prefixes when it's ionic. All right, see if you can complete page 113. And then we'll talk a little bit more about part 4.